Hi, it's Robin. I've got yet another game from my childhood here that I have great memories of, but also there was a bit of a mystery to it, be it a bug or quirks or whatever. I think now I've done actually quite a series of these games. So today we'll be looking at this game, Livingstone, I presume, but there's also kind of a mystery to it with a bug that we'll be investigating and see if we can get to the bottom of it. So I acknowledge that this isn't the most culturally sensitive game from a modern perspective. So as far as I know, it was only released on cassette. I didn't even have a legal copy when I was a kid. I got a pirated copy on disc, and it was only in more recent years, since the advent of eBay, etc., that I got myself a copy of it. So there's the cassette. It was published by Alligator Software in England. Not a particularly well-known game, but those who did play it, but this is kind of like a little-known classic, and it was very memorable for me. It's going to take a while to load from cassette, so we'll get that going, and then we'll look at the instruction book a bit more. Okay, I've got the C64 set up here, my Super Snapshot cartridge plugged in at the back, my data set hooked up. It's a bit messier than usual. I have my micro IEC drive back here, SD card reader, that's normally plugged in the cassette port for power, but because I've got the actual data set plugged in, I'm running it off of USB power, and that's just, I think I'm going to need a bit of disk access later. Okay, so we use the auto load and run feature, shift, and pressing the stop key activates the load and run feature. Load, press play on tape, and away it loads. And while that's loading, we'll go back to the manual. So here on the back of the tape insert, a little bit of history with a little bit of mystery as you relive the nightmarish trek of Stanley in his search for the long-lost missionary, Dr. Livingstone. This is very loosely based on a real-life story. Blood-splattering pit hammers in the diamond mines, spear-throwing natives in the bush, and to make it okay, even the white men are hostile and would rather see you dead than alive. It's spine-chilling action every step of the way with a little adventure thrown in for good measure. Hidden gems, secret temples. So it was actually written by this company called OperaSoft, who are from Spain, and then this was like the English version made for England. Okay, let's look at how the game loading's going. Found Livingstone. Press the Commodore key to load. Well, here it's the European #1 hit. Fantastico sensational. Checking back in on the Commodore 64. There it's the Livingstone, and this is the Nova Load fast loader. I've never looked into the meaning of that number that comes after Nova Load, N102604. Perhaps like a serial number, maybe each individual game that was Nova loaded, which is kind of like a form of fast loading mastering system. Perhaps each one got its own unique number. I should look into that sometime. All right, back to the manual. And inside the insert, 7 lives, 7 levels, 63 screens. Find Dr. Livingstone, collect food and water for sustenance, 7 distinct levels with disguised exits. So yeah, they're calling it levels, 63 screens, but there's kind of distinct sections to it. And don't let the sea eagle catch you. How to move. So yeah, you can actually play with the keyboard instead of the joystick. And you actually have to use keys 1 through 4 to select your boomerang, dagger, grenade, or pole vault. Or pole for vaulting. Oh, excuse me there, Robin. Just an update. Still loading. Back to you, Robin. And it does give here the first 4 levels. Gives sort of maps there. Send for your own 4-color t-shirt for the summer. £3.95 or 2 for £7. Do you know anyone who ever had that shirt? Even the game itself is rare enough, never mind the special t-shirt offer. Oh, almost unloading. Oh, there we go. Livingstone, I presume. Press stop. Okay, so we're going to give the game a try. If you find this boring watching me play a game, then just check the chapter index to jump ahead. But I want to show you a couple of the favorite things here. And most importantly, I want to show you what the problem with this game is, but may take a little while to get there. Oh, and we're also going to poke the game for infinite lives. I'll explain that in a bit. Okay, here we go. So you're this jungle explorer Stanley, and you do have these food and water bars, or those 2 gray bars that are counting down. So I shouldn't stand around and talk. Pressing 1 through 4 activates the 4 different tools in the bottom right corner. Above that are 7 explorer hats representing how many lives you have, and that will matter in a bit. And most importantly maybe is this power bar. I'm going to hold down the power button and look where it says power in that, just above the food and water bar in the bottom left. You see how a red bar goes up. And this is a really interesting mechanic in this game that everything you can do, you do it with a selectable amount of power, and that affects how far the thing goes or whatever. For example, I'll choose the boomerang with 1, and if I just press a little bit, you see the boomerang flies out and just comes back shortly. Okay, but if I let the power go all the way up to full, and you can hold it, and then let it go, the boomerang whips off. That's true for the knife and the grenade and the pole vault. So here we'll pole vault, and every screen is kind of like a bit of a puzzle, try to figure out how to get through it. That man-eating plant. This one I always use the knife to get that guy, little snake or whatever, because the knife has a different flight pattern. It goes down a little. We'll go down. I don't know why the game has these sirens. They're kind of annoying, but I just collected some water there. Oh, there's one of the prospectors. Okay, get him there. So those alarms really are pretty annoying. Whenever you collect something, it does that. Just waiting for the prospector here again. So this is a game that you learn through trial and error. But this just fascinated me when I was a kid. How many different ways of doing things. It's really unique. Get that monkey. Okay, and this screen introduces the sea eagle, I think it's called. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do here is, there. The boomerang, try to get right between the O's. I happen to kill that bird as well. That thing will grab you and bring you off to another screen. Even extremely late in the game, he will swoop down, grab you, and you essentially start the game over again. Oh, it's horrible. I love this game, though. Okay, so we're going to pole vault now that I've killed that monkey. And here we'll launch right through that screen. You can see you can sometimes even jump 2 full screens. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to do this. You gotta kill all 3 of those really quick, then switch to the pole vault, and then, oh, I messed it up. There, I've lost 2 lives already. Just like that, after doing pretty good. Ah! Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've already lost 3-4 lives very quickly here. I'm going to freeze the game, go into my Super Snapshot monitor, and if we disassemble at 4586, I'll tell you later how I figured this out, because it's kind of part of my discovery of this game. But right here is a decrement C808, and that is the lives counter, and then the code loads it back in, checks if it's wrapped around down to FF, which would be a game over, and otherwise it continues on. So for infinite lives, all we have to do is change that decrement, which is a CE, to a bit command, which is essentially makes it harmless, a 2C. And there you see now the decrement has become a bit, and the lives counter will not go down. I didn't figure that cheat out directly. The game actually taught it to me, but we'll get to that later. I'm just going to continue the gameplay here. Resume. Okay, we'll pole vault. That's a pit up ahead of us, so we'll pole vault over it and jump in. Watch, I have three lives now, or 3 of those hats. Just got to take care of all these villagers. Again, not culturally sensitive. Okay, terrible, eh? Okay, so switching back to the pole vault. Getting through this village is kind of like a maze, like I said. Oh. Well, I'm dying a lot here. Hey, you'll see my hat, the number of hats hasn't gone down for a while. Hey, you see how brutally difficult this game is? Sometimes they'll just keep killing you. Like once you die, then when you I guess the word is respawn nowadays, essentially you'll die several times from one mistake. So even that seemingly generous 7 hats is not enough, or 7 lives. Okay, I think I went the wrong way here. So yeah, the grenade has a different flight path, as you can see. So up above, that's like a jewel. I always thought they were eggs when I was a kid, but they're apparently jewels. To properly finish the game, you have to collect all 5 of those. But that one's really tricky to get at, and I know I'm not going to beat the game today, so I'm not going to bother with those. Those are important if you try to play this game properly, though. Oh. That guy. Again, the different amounts of power really makes a difference here. There, I got everybody. Okay, I think I can pole vault from here and get over all that. Oh, there's another one of those prospectors or whatever. So I'm going to try and jump over here. And there. And get through this village finally. And if you put the pole vault here, you can leap through. I don't know if I've explained this well enough or giving enough commentary, but maybe you see what makes this game so fascinating to me as a kid. It's just the amount of variety. Oh, there's that bird. No! Oh. That's exactly what I didn't want to happen. Yeah, basically the game's going to start over now. Okay, that's going to be too painful to do again. So rather than make you sit through all that, I've decided I just jumped ahead here. So what I did was play through to this stage. We've gone through some underground mines and stuff. Like, I've got a bit of footage of that. Okay, so after you get through the village, then you go into these kind of like mines. You go through these miners, and there's some caves down there. And then when you finally get through all that, you get to this area that's kind of like rivers and bridges. And what I've done is use my super snapshot to make a snapshot of memory at that location. That's actually where it got its name. So we can kind of reload from that point and continue. It's kind of like save states. Okay, so getting on with it here. Whoop. And inexplicably, there's like these cavemen. I don't know why. And cavemen up above and mermaids down below. Well, that tornado thing. Okay, there's one of those egg gems. There, I got it. Of course, it sets off that annoying alarm. Yeah, the mermaid doesn't kill you with the hearts, but you do get stunned. Oh, there's another caveman. Okay, we'll go through here and one more level like this. And here's the big moment. This is what it's been working towards. It crashes, okay? This is what would happen to me when I was a kid, played the game, and you can imagine I didn't have any cheats back then, so I got good enough to get through all that gameplay on the included 7 lives, and then this happens. The game just crashes. So that was a huge disappointment to have the game crash like that, but at the same time, maybe it added to the allure of the game a little too, and I used to think maybe it was like a bad crack, but no. I now know that even the original game does it, or you might be thinking it's an NTSC PAL bug, but no, I even tried it on my PAL machine, the original game on PAL. It crashes too. So I'm basically certain it's a problem with the original copy. In fact, on the website Lemon64, there's several comments here. This John CL back in 2010 said, also, an original of this title doesn't seem to pop up very often, so possibly the sales were stopped because of the bug at level 3. Maybe because this game was buggy, they actually stopped selling it. I don't know, or it just wasn't popular. Another one here from Dynast. Almost impossible to reach or pass level 3. The Omen said, this stayed in my heart for a very long time. I used to think about it back in primary school, how to get out of the caves and all. Great game. The Vortex in 2004 said it had this fantastic adventure feeling to it, and the gold mines and minecart on train tracks were also very nice. And yes, very difficult and frustrating. Monty in 2004 said, but in level 3 the game is hanging up because the game is broken. I've never found a working copy from this game, so I think it's a serial bug. So I used to think it was just like my bad pirated copy that caused the crash, but now that I own the original, even it crashes. And it was only recently that I noticed a pretty big clue, well, kind of the beginning of a trail of clues that might lead to how did this broken game get shipped. So here inside the instruction book, there's this section about infinite lives. You may find Livingstone quite difficult at first, no kidding. If you would like to try with infinite lives, try running the following program before loading. So have you ever heard of a game that shipped infinite live pokes right in the game booklet? I think that's really rare. So here's the pokes for the Amstrad. You can see they're poking Opera, O-P-E-R-A, presumably for Opera Soft into memory. The Spectrum is poking into memory, and that, just looking at the distances, that's probably poking Opera as well. MSX version is printing Opera on the screen and then doing a cassette load. But here, for the Commodore 64, or as it was known, CBM 64, please send a self-addressed envelope or ask for a copy of cheat codes when you order your t-shirt. They've included the pokes for all these other versions, but not for the Commodore 64 version. You might think that they're just trying, I don't know, really get you to order the t-shirt if you were a Commodore 64 owner, but that doesn't really make sense. You'd almost think that Amstrad or MSX owners are better off than C64 owners. Well, C64 owners are probably better off than Spectrum owners, but so why were the cheat codes not included for the C64 version? And also, as far as I know, it's only the Commodore 64 version that is bugged, because I've actually played the MSX version, and as far as I know, the other versions work okay. So what is it about the C64 version that both the pokes aren't included and the game is buggy? Could there be a connection? Well, yes. When I saw all the other versions looked for that string Opera, that made me wonder, did the C64 version have that cheat in it, even if they weren't publishing it in the manual? So I'm in the Super Snapshot Monitor, and we're just going to hunt through memory from, say, it was kind of arbitrary, but from 800 hex to 9 FFF. for the string opera. And what do you know? There's a hit at 4199. So we can look at that in memory. And sure enough, there's that text string opera. Now, let's see if there's any nearby code referring to that. Okay, and right there is 4199. So immediately before the string is this routine. And what does it do? It sets the Y index to 5, and there happen to be 5 letters in opera. And then it's indexing from 4198, seems to be one base just because they want to use this branch if not equal. And basically it's comparing the string opera with what's in memory at 0203. And if the string matches, then the value 2C is put in 4586. Well, does that sound familiar? What is at 4586? That's the cheat code we put in earlier. That was a decrement C808, and now it's changed into a bit. 2C, right there. So this is where I got that Infinite Lives cheat from. Right from the very game, after it finds the string opera, it does that Infinite Lives poke. So they did put a cheat in the code. And by the way, it's compared with 0203. That is the basic line buffer. When you type a command in BASIC, that's where it gets stored. So the idea is that somehow you would put the word opera in the command when you're loading it. So basically it's checking for the string opera at 0204. Again, the 0 index isn't working, so its indexes 1 through 5, so that would be 204 through 208. Okay, so how can we put opera there? If I reset the computer. So I think what you would do is load the game something like load, quote, quote, colon, and then type in opera. And that would prompt you to press play on tape. And just to verify, we'll go into the machine language monitor and look at memory at 200. And there's the string, OPERA. And you see that the load command is gone. It doesn't say LOAD here. It's being reduced to a single token. 93 is the basic token for load. And the quotes are still there, quote, quote, and a colon. So something like that is what they expected you to do. Now, I won't waste our time actually trying to load this and make the cheat happen because I already did, and it does not work. I tried several different ways, and I began to suspect that that cheat is broken for some other reason. And that is probably why it wasn't included in the manual. Probably the game makers intended it to be there, but then when they were making up the manual, they tested it and it didn't work. And it's like, well, you better just write us and we'll give it to you. We'll figure it out later because this had to go to press. The same insert was used for all 4 versions of the game. Well, at least the inside part was. Although it does say C64 on the front. Okay, so back into the monitor. So we already established that this is the cheat routine and it's at address 4186. So I was curious, does this subroutine even get called? And we can check that just by putting in the address in low byte, high byte format. So you just switch them around. 8641. We're going to hunt memory for that pattern. Is it there? Yes, it is. Nearby at 4017. So let's disassemble memory starting at 4000. And we're going to expect a JSR 4186. But there isn't one here. Instead, we see the pattern 8641 that we're looking for. but the disassembler says it's a store X in location 41. And the line above it is an LSR, a logical shift right, at location 2041. And above it are 3 NOPs. So this all looked very suspicious to me. Like, why would there just be a random seeming LSR, especially right here, where we expected to see a JSR? Well, the funny thing is, look at the byte before it, 20. Here's some JSRs up here. You see that the opcode for JSR is 20, and there is a 20 right here before. So in fact, if we were to disassemble at location 4016, you see right now it's disassembly at 4017, 4016 we're going to disassemble. There is our JSR 4186. So this is kind of confusing, I know, but this really started making me think, what is going on with these NOPs? So when you see a few NOPs in what is otherwise dense code, unless there's some really tricky timing stuff going on, that very advanced programming for like drive code or graphics in intense graphic routines that have to be very precisely timed. Otherwise, if you see some no operations NOPs, that's probably because somebody has patched out some code that they don't want to execute. That's exactly what's happened here. Okay, and as mentioned here, the European #1 hit and OperaSoft Spain, there is a Spanish version of this game that was published first. And so fortunately, I was able to find a copy of that. In fact, if you go looking for playthroughs on YouTube, like means somebody has made a video of playing through this game from beginning to end, you will not find a single Allegada English version of it. Every one of those playthroughs may be labeled Livingstone, I presume, in the video description, but when you look at the title screen, they all say Livingstone Supongo. I don't know if I said that right, but Livingstone, I suppose, in Spanish. And the Spanish version does work properly. And if we disassemble this area of memory, we will find that there's actually a branch. So the English version on the left and the Spanish version on the right. At 4011, where the English version has these NOPs, EAs, to remove the code, the Spanish version has a branch of equal to 400E, so just branches back in a loop. I don't know why. And then at 4013, instead of an EA, there is a 20, which is a JSR. So I'm going to change this. I won't bother changing those first two, but I am going to change that third NOP to a 20. And now we're going to disassemble from 4000. And there was a JSR 414E that was missing, and our JSR 4186, the cheat code. So it really seems to me that when patching this out, the programmer just wanted to patch out the branch, but a branch is only 2 bytes long. Even though when you look at it disassembled, it looks like 3 bytes, like the branch, and then a 16-bit address. But really it is a branch opcode and then an 8-bit relative address that can only branch plus or minus 127, 128 bytes. So they goofed that up, and then I guess the game ran okay, so they never noticed that they wrecked the master copy. They wrecked the game, but not until you get to like the 4th level. So that is why the cheat code doesn't work. But it's the cause of the crash too. This is what's amazing. It's one byte change. So I'm going to change that back to EA. This just seems so crazy to me. And you know, it's like whatever, 36 years, 35 years later. So here, I've changed it back to a NOP. And you see what that causes, the 4E, this used to be a 16-bit JSR address, 414E. Instead, the 4E has become not part of the address, but it's now being interpreted as an opcode, LSR, a logical shift right for a 16-bit address, and now the other half of the address plus the JSR opcode, the 20, has become part of the address, and now location 2041 is getting modified. And now the address, the 86 in the address of the Infinite Lives cheat routine is getting interpreted as a store X in location 41. So location 41 is getting modified as well. So it's just incredible how one byte has wrecked a few instructions, 2 or 3 instructions, and is causing, random isn't the word, but is allowing memory to become corrupted. So that's how easy it is. A single byte causes other instructions to be recontextualized or reinterpreted. Addresses suddenly become opcodes. So I did a bit of other looking into this off camera. It turns out that location 41 seems to be properly initialized anyway. So maybe the only problem is this LSR 2041. Could it be the cause of the crash? Okay, so I'm just going to reload that snapshot because you remember we crashed at the bridge there. All right, let's run it. So here's the snapshot. Okay, so we're back at the bridge. I'm going to go into the monitor. We're going to look at that initialization code at 4000. LSR 2041. That might be the only damage being done. So let's look at location 2041, and there's a 33 in there. Okay, so that's had a logical shift to the right, which is equivalent to dividing by 2. So there's currently a 33 hex in there. Let's multiply it by 2, 66. And that may undo the damage that was done. We'll exit. And we'll resume. And let's try to play through this. Whoops. Those cavemen. Well, sorry about the alarm. Oh. I don't know why sometimes that alarm doesn't clear even when you go to a new level. Here we go, over the bridge. Okay, here we go. Here we go, moment of truth. Woo! Okay, so finally, I get to see what's on the other side of that bridge. Here I am. Yay! And maybe nobody's ever seen this on the English version. There we go. Jump over here. Yeah, this is so hard. Okay, so I'll step. Each time that log goes by and that wraps. Oh, I messed up. So just waiting for that log to wrap around here. And I'll step off. I'll jump over that man-eating plant. Oh, he got me! I love when you shoot over him too. It's like he stares at the camera shocked. Let's see if I can manage it this time. Oh! Not playing this as well as... Okay, this time, gotta go over them. See, stares at the camera. Okay, let's sleep over here. Over here. Hey, the temple. And of course, I just kill everybody who's there. Okay, so this is like the first ending of the game. I know from other videos, basically you have to get all 5 of those gems to be able to pass through. And since we didn't, you get dumped back earlier in the game. Okay, so I am not going to finish the game today. This has been, just figuring all this out has been quite the job. I'm really happy about it now. So, okay, so just to summarize, if you want to play this game without the crash, you load up your original copy or your pirated version, and then when the game is started, you go into your Super Snapshot and modify location 2041 from 33 to 66, and that will solve the crash. So you can also use your snapshot cartridge here to change location 4586 from a CE, which is a decrement, to a 2C, which is a bit. That will give you infinite lives. And the final thing to fix, and this is kind of optional in a way, this location 4013, change that from an EA into a 20, a JSR. That would allow these subroutines to run, particularly this infinite lives one, and then that opera cheat would work. Now, the only catch about that one is when you load the game and then freeze it, this code is already executed. What you would actually have to do is modify it ahead of time and then save that out and then execute that. But the problem is that the game on cassette here, that's already all encoded. It's got like an auto boot feature built in. Like you can't modify this tape. You can't go in and selectively change that 1 byte. Not easily. So I would like to do that. Maybe I'll do that in a future video, or maybe I'll have somebody do that. I'll give them this information so they can produce a clean, fresh copy, but that's way too much to try and fit into this episode. In fact, I don't even know exactly how you go about that when there's like a fast loader, like the Nova load, how you undo that, or how you might have to write your own load routine or modify the existing load routine, hack into it, and cause it to allow it to fast load the game, but then instead of executing the game to stop, so you could go into the monitor and save that out as a clean binary file that's uncompressed, and then you can modify it, and then you can recompress it. Anyway, there's a whole bunch to it. I think the important thing here is that this old game that crashed now works, and I can finally try to finish the game after all these years. All right, so thank you very much to my patrons for their support. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.